In this video, we're going to explore the position absolute in CSS, and this is really important to understand. And when I started with CSS or all kind of HTML programming, I was just doing many things. I just tried to get it in the right position. If it shows good, fair enough. But understanding why, for example, position absolute is being used, or more specifically how it works, will help you to understand why it responds in the way it is, and the same is position relative. So let's start and explore here. What we're going to do here is we're going to create two divs. I will say this div, I'll give it a class absolute, and then we have another item, we class div class relative. And what we'll do here is we're going to give this class here, class absolute, a color. We say this will be color. Let's do something. I have no idea what. 128899. All right. And then we have another one, and that will be the grayish color 33333. All right. And this is relative. Once we have this. Oh, you don't see anything yet because we need to give it a margin and a padding. Or let's give it a padding. Let's take padding 20 pixels. And then we have the same here, but this one will be padding 40 pixels. Once we save this, refresh, we should be able to see it. Do we see anything here? We see them here, but for some reason the background color is not showing at all. Because we didn't do background. Sorry about that. Alright, that makes sense. It's not the color, but the background color. Alright, so we have this here. Alright, so right now you can see here it is stacked on each other, and there is basically here a bit of a default padding. That's what we can do. We can probably remove this as well. And then we say here, this is making a reset. We say margin 0. Padding 0. Alright. So there you are. So we remove the default margin and padding, whatever that is used on the browser, and then you can see this is right now what we're calling a relative or absolute. Right now they're relative. Why is it relative? Because they are stacked on each other. As you can see here, now they are stacked on each other, and then if you would have another item, let's put in here another item. Oh, make sure that this is a div. I put in here another item. I say item 3, and item 3 will have a class. Item 3 with a background of blue. So what will happen is once we do this, background blue, and of course padding 30 pixels. Alright, so we have this blue here. Then we have this gray here. Well, let's give it slightly another color because it's quite bright. So we say triple D. That's fine. Alright, so we have these nice, more softer colors. So you can see here, what happened now is right now, they're all relative because they are all stacked on each other. This div here will understand that it must stack on the other two because these are here. But what happened if we have, for example, here an absolute? We say here position absolute. So what happened at that moment is that this is above, will start here the starting point, and these two will not count this anymore as a part of the puzzle. So let's refresh here. You can see now instantly it pushes this all up because it doesn't see this anymore, and we can even give this a width of 100% just to make sure. You can see it still has a max width, but it doesn't seize it anymore. You can see that our relative is starting back at 0. With absolute, you can assign, and by default it sets up here the top left at 0, but we can change this. So because this is the default, basically what's happening. 0 and left 0. This is the default of it. As you can see, it doesn't change, but we can move this. Let's say we want to move this down. What we can do here, we know this is 60 pixels. All right. And we know this one here is 80 pixels. And that's correct because we have margin of 40 and 30. That would mean top and bottom has a padding of 40. So that's 80 and this is 60. So what we can do is we can reassign this now. We will say here top, there's 80 plus 60 is 140 pixels. And left 0. If we assign this, we maintain this, you can see now it moves down. However, while this moves down here, if you would add up a new item tree, or let's get another relative, let's put it down here, you will see it will overrule this again. And the reason why it overrules it, because it is absolute. Absolute does not, or the relative cannot calculate the absolute. However, if you have in the absolute a relative, that is possible because then within this box, or within this absolute positioning, the other items will start to calculate wherever they are. So for example here, let's say here we have here a div class, and let's give this a block. Alright, so we say here we have a block or a square, and this square contains, let's say here, width of 10 pixels and height of 10 pixels. And this one has a padding top of 10 pixels. Alright? And then we say here position relative. So what happened now is the following. We can see here, oh, let's double check here. We have the position here. Where is this? This is position absolute. So we have the block. Did I save this correctly? I'm not seeing it yet. Alright. There we are. So right now, and let me just reposition this back to 0 because I figure out that it's quite hard to see here. 0, and then I will say here background color. Background is white. As you can see here now, we created a width, and this width has a padding here as well of padding top of 10. So what happened here is it starts to calculate what's its positioning. So the absolute has a fixed padding of 20, and then the block will calculate within here. So if you would have another item, let's put another block in there, you can see it starts to move in here, and we can change this as well. If we do here position, and we could do this even in display inline block, then you can see they start to move beside each other. So what happens now exactly is this. They reposition themselves based on the absolute, and within the absolute you can start to put things in. This is important. Why? If you want to have a sticky menu or a menu on the top, this is one of the ways you can do it. You create a menu here, you put it in an absolute, and then what you do is the relative down here, you can push them, for example, in a section. So we create a section here where we have the others, and then here we have maybe another section with a header, and let's put here proper indentation. Alright, and what happens is the following. You can now assign that to just only what you have to do is here to understand the height matters here. So for example, if our position has here a width of padding, and let's say we have here max height, we can do here max height 50 pixels. Then what we can do here is, of course, create here inner section that we can just go here with a section. In here we say padding top 50 pixels. So now we can move that. Oh, as you can see here, we probably have to do a little bit more. This is even more here. We have to, let's see, this is the max. Oh, did I do max width? Alright, this should be max height. slightly more, and maybe we can push it a bit more down, I guess. Well, let's double check here. Why do we have the amount here? We have the padding 20, 20, all right, and then we have in the center here, this is 24 if I'm not mistaken, so that would mean that there is here probably in the block is a certain amount of values that would create that. So what we can do then, of course, here is to make the max height. Here we can do this max height 60, and then we say here the padding top will be 60 as well, so you can control that. And with that you have no interference with your design, because you can see now this maintains here, and if we are even on mobile, that maintains as well. Of course, here we have to fine-tune this, but that doesn't matter for now. Most important part is to understand absolute. It's very, very common. Not understanding this will create chaos in your CSS code. And this is my personal experience as well. I was trying to, because of all the visual, you can see it visually, you start to play around with paddings, margins, left, right, etc., etc., but it doesn't make sense to do that. What you have to do is to understand the core, how this really works. Once you understand how this works, you can figure out how to do it, and that's basically it. This is a really solid basic of CSS. So if you have any questions regarding this, put them in the comment section below. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you enjoy this video, you probably will enjoy this one as well. And if you're interested in Chart.js, check out in the description box the link directing to my Chart.js course, where you can learn everything about Chart.js. And finally, of course, make sure you subscribe to my channel.